This video will serve as an introduction to all the upcoming ones, so get comfortable and enjoy the viewing. For those of you who have already seen the world from a new perspective, most of the facts are already familiar, but there will still be new ones here. And for all the others who are not yet familiar with the theory of a flat Earth, their first reaction will be, is this a joke? Seriously? This isn't a prank, that's where we'll begin. During the first 4,000 years of our civilization, people believed that the Earth was a flat disk covered with a solid dome called the firmament. All 5 major world religions have talked about this, and the Church has always supported this idea. In 1548, a man named Nicolaus Copernicus proposed a new model of the world. He claimed that the Earth rotates around its axis at a speed of 1,100 kilometers per hour and orbits the Sun at a speed of 108.0 kilometers per hour, while the Earth has a spherical shape. However, a problem arose. At that time, there were no technologies that could confirm his theory about the shape of the Earth and its rotation. Since the telescope had not yet been invented, how did Copernicus manage to determine these parameters? But that's not all. There is a question: did Copernicus really exist? Or was he a fictional character who never existed? Official history contains an interesting fact. Copernicus held a relatively high social status in his lifetime. He was a clergyman and a well-known scholar. Considering all this, it's strange that the location of his grave remained unknown for 500 years. However, during excavations beneath the Federal Cathedral in Toru in 2005, a skull and leg bones were discovered, and a comparative DNA analysis of these remains and 2 of Copernicus's hairs, miraculously found in one of his books, confirmed that the discovered remains indeed belonged to Copernicus. So, the question arises, why was such a respected gentleman, affiliated with the Catholic Church and the author of scientific works, buried in an unknown grave? It's only in 2005 that he was suddenly found and his identity confirmed through DNA found in a book that had been stored there for 500 years. Let's move on. The first balloon capable of lifting a person into the air was created only in 1760, so Copernicus could not test his theory. However, the new concept of peace spread very quickly, and religions decided not to interfere. Life went on, and the concept of a spherical Earth became an integral part of education, although it was not fully proven. Over the next 500 years, all attempts to challenge this theory disappeared, and the sphere was accepted as a universal concept, including the theory of gravity. As centuries passed, people had no opportunity to prove that the Earth was a sphere. The first airplanes were created in 1903, but until 1957, they could not reach the necessary altitude to present a true panorama of the Earth. Now, let's move on to strange events, or rather, very strange ones. The United States and the Soviet Union learned to launch rockets to great heights to take good pictures of the Earth. But what they saw caused fear. How do we know they were frightened? Because they began firing nuclear missiles directly into the sky, and they continued to do so for the next 4 years, ostensibly under the guise of testing. But please don't forget a few things. First, in 1950, nuclear weapons were very expensive and the cost of each missile was enormous. Second, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they dropped a bomb with a yield of 20 kilotons, which is equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT. In the sky, they were firing missiles with yields of up to 3 megatons, which is equivalent to 3 million tons of TNT. Obtaining these was not so simple. Third, strange things began happening in other parts of the planet too. In 1959, just a year after nuclear explosions in the sky, 12 countries, including the USA, declared Antarctica neutral territory and off-limits to colonization. An international treaty was signed and has been upheld to this day, with over 50 countries now party to it. Do you know of any other treaty that has been observed by developed countries for over 50 years? Furthermore, do you know of any other large territory on Earth with no owner? You might think that at least one mega corporation would use its resources to explore this territory, but they have shown no interest whatsoever. Here is a brief chronology of discoveries in 1958. The military discovered very stable upper and lateral borders of our world and were forced to restrict access to these regions to prevent invasion. Yes, they did it cleverly, signing the Antarctic Treaty in 1959 and the treaty banning nuclear tests in the sky in 1963. But everything that the powers that be do always serves a double purpose. A significant amount of work had already been done, so only the details of the contract remained. The boundary of the Sky Dome was much higher than the ceiling for commercial aircraft, so they were worried about space exploration. Consequently, they immediately transferred control of space to the military and classified it. The southern boundary of the Earth was naturally protected by the vast ocean and the low temperatures in this region, with a lot of icebergs preventing the approach to the border. The icy deserts didn't allow farming, so what were people supposed to do there? Ice and cold waters have effectively held people back for many years. The necessary technologies of our civilization developed slowly, so the captains tried to avoid dangerous icy waters. The decrease in oxygen levels is noticeable even in the mountains, which limits our ability to explore the heights of our world. This is a very well thought out design, because those who created it knew that secrets and power corrupt, and they would rather protect it from outsiders than risk losing it. You might think that kings and priests have known for a long time that we are under the dome. Maybe it was written in an ancient book or on old parchment, or maybe the aliens told them. But all this is just gossip, because even the most powerful rulers could not reach the border of the sky and Antarctica, and if they couldn't, then ordinary people certainly couldn't. When priests tell you that you are surrounded by a dome, it is one thing. Quite another when you stand in front of it and look at it from a distance of several meters. That's when difficult decisions need to be made. Do we keep this secret for ourselves, or do we honestly tell all people? If we keep this to ourselves, what will we do with everyone else? They decided to keep it a secret and did not spare any funds for this. The rapid development of the space industry happened only because they needed images from space, the lunar program, and images of the Earth. NASA was officially founded in 1958, and that's quite an interesting coincidence, isn't it? Just a year before the signing of the Antarctic Treaty. At the same time, all competitive private companies that also wanted to explore space and earn money there were closed. The best engineers, scientists, and pilots were hired by NASA, but their sphere of research was highly restricted or classified. They couldn't even communicate with each other about their work. Only the astronauts knew about the secret, signing non-disclosure agreements and receiving good pay, fame, and rewards for it. Private space research was either destroyed or simply bought out. Private spacecraft will never be allowed into space for several reasons. The most obvious reason is that rockets and planes would collide with the dome, and their sensors would malfunction at a certain altitude. If this were to happen regularly, it would raise many questions. What are these rockets colliding with? For those who are already itching to comment on Elon Musk, I will say right away that all his projects are unprofitable and are funded by the US government and possibly several allied states. In short, Elon Musk is an accidental NASA ally. Most likely, when SpaceX becomes more or less complete, Elon Musk will sell it for a substantial amount of money. There are 3 questions about our world that cannot be ignored, but NASA is not prepared and has no intention of answering these questions, and they avoid them by any means necessary. You must ask these questions to yourself and others. The first question, quoting the words of Max Mellon, who did an excellent job with his work. After 50 years of research, reviewing thousands of hours of space footage from NASA and videos from other countries, I have not seen a single instance where an astronaut turns their camera 180 degrees or makes a 360-degree turn. Nowhere and never have there been any videos with such turns. This is because they cannot violate the one and only rule, which also applies to any staged series. Never show the fourth wall. Why not show it? Because there is no fourth wall. There are cameras, microphones, and operators. The second question, when you search the internet for photos of Earth from space, 95% of what you see is Photoshop and not always of high quality. In 2000, when I conducted my research, there was only one photo from NASA showing the lower part of Africa and part of Antarctica. Now this photo has been lost among hundreds of fakes. They have high-resolution cameras, and yet no one can take a high-resolution photo of Earth. NASA simply cannot reach an orbit to capture convincing photographs. Third question. The routes of commercial aviation flights in the southern hemisphere are indicated incorrectly. You can check it yourself in just 1 minute. Please do this. Take any city in Australia and any in South America. You need to fly over the South Pacific, right? Now find a plane ticket that flies a direct flight between these cities without transfers. That's where the headache begins, because there is a certain distance between 2 points on the map. And on a flat map, these two cities will be the furthest from each other. You can't just cut a corner, so they have to create complex routes with multiple transfers. They were fortunate that the United States is located in the northern hemisphere because the growth of aviation would have long ago exposed all suspicious flight routes. Yes, I know this may sound like nonsense and hallucination. Some people will boldly assert that all world leaders are reptiles and reptilians. But these very same people will laugh in your face when they hear about the flat Earth. I, too, have been interested in conspiracy theories and continue to be. I've explored all the interesting topics for research, and I never wanted to delve into the flat Earth theory. However, every time I look into this topic now, I constantly discover something new. When I saw how it works and what these people had in mind, I seriously got into flat Earth theory. Think for yourselves and ask yourselves whether this is possible. Just entertain the idea and you might see more than meets the eye. As for the 500-year-old lie with the globe, it's long overdue to return to where it all began. This video serves as an introduction to the topic of the flat Earth. We are under a dome and there will be 5 to 6 more parts. So, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to enable notifications. YouTube has already removed 2 of my videos and very few people were able to see them. Bye.